Hello, everyone. I hope you have enjoyed the meal that the Hillbrook staff has prepared for you. Let's give them a round of applause. On behalf of our presenting sponsor, Covia, which is this table right here, I would like to thank all of you for joining us tonight for celebrating Geauga Medical Center and 60 years of caring for our community. I would also like to thank our many table sponsors for helping to make this celebration possible. Let's give a round of applause for all of our table sponsors. Together, we have made this hospital a success and servant to our community. We are deeply appreciative to all our committee members and volunteers, especially Emily Gottsagen and Tina Sellers Smith for taking time out of their busy schedules to plan, organize, and oversee every detail for this celebration. Their work and energy have made the difference, and this evening would not have happened without their efforts. We thank you. This announcement may be a tad too late, but the wine on your table was our gift to you as our sponsors. You may share it with your table mates or not, or take it with you to enjoy at another time. A staff member still will be happy to open it for you. To begin our program, I would like to introduce a special guest who is not a stranger to any of us. Jim Patterson and his wife, Nancy, have been leaders in our community and at Geauga Medical Center for decades. Jim is going to share with us a few reflections on the long journey that brought us to this evening. I thank you. Thank you, Jim. It's all yours.
First, before starting, you folks should know that Lisa recognized Emily and Tina for all the work that they did, but I am sure that they would tell you that this would have never happened in as nice and a glorious fashion as it is without Lisa Farino leading the way. And so a big hand for Lisa Farino. So you'll have to forgive me, but when I started in this, I thought, oh, there's so many things I wanted to say, and so I wrote much of it down so that I wouldn't forget, but I probably will. But I want to thank you very much. It's a distinct honor for me to help you look back through the years as we celebrate 60 years of service to the folks in our county and beyond. Let me confess to you at the very outside of my remarks that I have plagiarized many other authors. Morris Fox's History in 1982 Dr. Beam's History of the Geauga Medical Society in 1966, Patra Dunjic's notes, and other people's as well. And I'd like to start by reading you a paragraph from a letter the hospital received. Quote, Geauga County has been endowed with a tremendously valuable asset. At the hospital, we saw abundant medical and surgical facilities. We saw a truly beautiful nursery equipped with incubators, oxygen, aspirating machines, and all the other necessary equipment to give the newborn a wonderful start in life. 2 resident physicians are in attendance, and in addition to the county's doctors available, our various specialties are also included and are immediately available if the necessity arises. We are genuinely enthusiastic over this new hospital. It is indeed one of Geauga County's real treasures. Was this letter received just recently? No. It was written January 3rd, 1960, 6 months after it was opened, by someone that you folks, some of you may know, Dave, Ellen. It was written by Dr. Jack and Priscilla Eldridge. The letter was given to us by Paul Jacobs' daughter. It would seem nothing has changed in 60 years, but think about the hospital now and what it has become. I like to say that Geauga Community Hospital was one of the very best community hospitals and now has become one of the very best comprehensive medical centers in all of Northeast Ohio. A bit of history. The idea that a hospital might be possible perhaps was talked about back in about 1926 when Dr. Walter Corey, who many of you know the name, became health commissioner of both Lake and Geauga County. In 1932, he opened first on Huntington Street and soon moved around the corner to the large house that was referred to as Corey Hospital. There is some speculation that women who used the OB services became a sort of alumni association that kept up steady pressure for a real hospital. 3 times in the 1940s, the county went to the ballot to build a hospital. 3 times, a majority of Geauga residents voted yes, but because the law required a 65% majority, each time the issue did not pass. The need remained, and in May of 1952, the Women's Hospital Association, now the Women's Auxiliary, persisted and called a meeting in which it was decided to form a nonprofit corporation to pursue a hospital rather than through the county commissioners, through the county government. Several years passed when architects were retained, various fundraising efforts took place, and in 1957, prior to any hospital being built, Paul Jacobs was hired as administrator, virtually the first president. With the help of federal Hill-Burton monies, along with the local fundraising efforts, groundbreaking of a 51-bed hospital took place on June 29, 1958, with the opening in July 1959, 60 years ago. By the way, the daily rate was set at $22 a day. On the question of land, various sites were considered. The present location was selected through several purchases of different parcels, and some by swapping with the county. About 9 acres was bought from the county for $100. As an aside, they needed a right-of-way from 44, State Route 44 was needed. Few, if any, of the board knew that Maxine Johnson was working on it So we're surprised when she came into the meeting one night and announced that she had an option from the owner for a 60-foot ride right away for $10 a foot. The board immediately agreed. I want to stop here and just mention in attendance this evening is David Johnson, grandson of Maxine Johnson. Maxine was chair of the Building and Grounds Committee of the board and really was the point person who saw that the original hospital was completed. The Johnson family have given greatly to not only the hospital, but many other efforts in Geauga County. David, raise your hand. David Johnson. You'll see reference to his grandmother in many areas on the history table. The hospital has experienced several additions over the years. In 1970, the hospital felt that a major addition of 80 beds was needed, but since it was now a nonprofit, the hospital could not go to the voters for funding. A part of Ohio law called the Hoffman Act would allow the hospital to deed the exact piece of land that the addition sat on, not an inch more, that exact footprint for the building, to the county, and then the county could put a levy on the ballot to build the addition. The vote was in March 1972 and passed by a landslide. When the levy expired, the property then reverted back to the hospital. I want to mention the leaders of the hospital commission because they were longtime leaders of the hospital. There was Leroy Wright, Charles Zhang from Middlefield, John Reithofer from Auburn, Dick Mikowski from Burton, and Mrs. Norman Moss from Chesterland. Some of you may recognize some of those names. In 1995, after years of very careful study, many meetings as to how to best serve the residents of Geauga County, the decision was made to merge with University Hospitals of Cleveland. In my opinion, other than the decision that was made 60 years ago to build Geauga Hospital, this move has allowed Geauga to grow in its ability to offer the very finest care and expertise in all of healthcare to our doorsteps by providing a linkage with a nationally recognized institution where the finest cutting-edge technology and knowledge is available. I cannot begin to tell you enough how strongly I feel that this connection has and will continue to be a huge benefit to the folks the hospital serves. A few anecdotes I came across as I thought you might enjoy as I was working on this. From Maria Schmidt, who's here, and Maria, you have 45 years with the hospital. She's now retired. A couple of things that Maria remembers. Dr. Steffi, Arthur Steffi, who many of you may remember and know, was an outstanding orthopedic surgeon. But you never saw him without his pipe. That included surgery. Our table of anesthesiologists here would probably die. It was difficult convincing everyone of the advantage of digital imaging until a doctor's wife had an MRI that had a positive result. With the technology to share the images immediately, there was consultation in real time with specialists downtown expediting the patient transfer within an hour and in surgery that day. Another one, in attempting to acquire digital imaging with mammography, the story of the remarkable speed of caring for a patient led to the Frorings to provide a grant for the hospital's digital mammography. Thank you, Glenn and Joetta, for all you've done for the hospital. Glenn and Joetta. Raise your hand. You're here. Okay. Dr. de Blasio was said to be far ahead of the curve in providing bariatric surgery, and this was way before the current programs. Dr. Oka, who's here with us, did many. Here's Dr. Oka, way in the back. Dr. Oka did many remarkable thoracic surgeries at Geauga that then would more than likely only be done at UH's main campus, and he did them here at Geauga. And of course, now with the Harrington Heart and Vascular area, Dr. Stefano and his colleagues can do almost anything. We won't do this right now, but I was told that we should ask Dr. Oka about a nail in somebody's heart. Was that a story?
You know that story very well.
Huh? Okay. Paul Jacobs, who is the first and third president, used to walk in the hospital all hours of the day and night. In the middle of the night, someone in a cowboy hat and boots was reported to see him roaming the halls of the hospital. Too funny when he was approached by our then security force, which was maintenance, and had to explain that he was the president. And just a couple more. Prior to coming to work, a physician had gone hunting in the early hours and bagged a deer. So a deer carcass excuse me, was strapped in a truck most of the morning. Well, needless to say, a memo went out the next day stating no carcasses is to be left in the parking lot. Sandy Gerber, who's here with us here tonight and was a long time nurse assistant to Dr. Mazioka, and now for many of you, you'll recognize her as the person that delivers the mail and straightens the emergency room on Tuesdays. And she was telling the story how Dr. Mazioka went out in a very bad snowstorm and helped or delivered a baby for a lady. And one more, Nancy recalls, and hope this is true, Barbara. Nancy recalls Barbara Oka telling of her cultural shock when, as a nurse coming from sophisticated New York City, she moved to take a job at Geauga Community Hospital. Imagine her surprise when she located it in the middle of a field. However, and this is what's important, what she more remembers was the caring and dedicated nurses awaiting her arrival, and she fell in love with the country. All in fun, reminiscing. Excuse me. On a more serious note, there are so many to recognize that with some hesitation and a great deal of risk, I want to name just a few in no particular order. The Geauga County Medical Society, founded in 1866, whose support and wisdom from the very inception has been so important. Thank you. The Women's Auxiliary, without whose vision and certainly their persistence, the hospital may not have been built, at least in 1959. I could give a whole talk. On all the support the auxiliary has given. The auxiliary has raised for the hospital over $2 million. The nurses, they're the one who continually, year after year, cause UH Geauga to be ranked as one of the highest quality care hospitals anywhere. The staff with whom nothing would get accomplished. The original 5 doctors, Dr. Walter Corey, Dr. Hugh Schaefer, Dr. Alton Beam, Dr. Shaikiki Hayashi, who was our doctor, and Dr. William Reed. And tonight we have his daughter, Beth Cupp, here. Beth, where? Wait, over here. Another aside on that, Beth Cupp was my 5th grade teacher. The early and long time doctors, Dr. Oscar Oka, Dr. Kiyoshi Masaoka, Dr. George Dandelides, Dr. Arthur Steffi, Dr. Oscar Brinkman, Dr. Simon Onesian, Dr. David Mayer, Dr. Ansari, Dr. Charles Tremont, Dr. Arturo DeMaculangton, Dr. Bruce Andreas, Drs. Patra and Vishai Dunjak, Drs. Albert and Robert Evans. Now, this fellow will probably be mad at me for putting him in this older line of doctors, but Dr. John Tumbush. Wow, what a supporter. Oh, there he is over here. Dr. Tom Matee, Dr. Joe Belazio, and just to name a few that come to my mind. I apologize sincerely for all those that I failed to mention. They just came to my mind. Some names that need to be remembered in our history. B.J. Schanauer, Morris Fox, B.A. Broughton, William Barnes, Frank Fink, who was the first chair, Leroy Wright, Maxine Johnson, Bill Clark, Bob Clark, Edith Lerner, Glenn and Joetta Frohring, Bernice Hoffman, Norma Chapman, Marjorie Osborne, and I think, is her daughter here? I thought she was coming. Olive Samuel. Is Jacqueline here, I think? It'll be her mother-in-law. And the list, again, goes on and on with people. Our presidents, Paul Jacobs, who is the first and the 3rd president, Bill Hilliard, Richard Frenchie, Steve Jones, and Don DiCarlo. One mention of Rich Frenchie. Many of you asked me, where's Rich Frenchie tonight? Rich had something come up in the family and couldn't come. He wrote the nicest, it was a letter in the form of an email to Dr. DiCarlo. It was just magnificent on missing tonight and how much he thinks of the hospital. So he was with us. This is a good one. This young man here, James Rose. James, stand up, if you will. The first baby born at Geauga Hospital. He said, he told me tonight that his mother's account was 0001 and he was 0002. So, all the folks who gave to the fundraising efforts over so many years, I understand that there are actually families here tonight who gave and remember their folks giving. And of course, we cannot forget the tremendous support the hospital has received all these years from the Amish community. Let me finish this way. I have really been fortunate to virtually have a front row seat to so much of the hospital's history. Our first experience, Nancy and I's first experience with the hospital, was the birth of our 3 children in 67, 69, and 71. I personally have used the hospital on too many occasions. As it happened, I not only was on the Board of Commissioners when the Hoffman Act was approved and a major addition to the hospital was added, but chaired the hospital board when the decision was made to merge with UH. I also need to personally add how thrilled and proud I've been in our Seidman Cancer Center and the work of Dr. Jude Friedman, Dr. Wong, and I know Dr. Wong is here, and their colleagues and the staff of the assignment. It is the friendliest place when you go in there. And also in that area that I'm so proud of is our new Harrington Heart and Vascular Unit, our new cath lab, Dr. Greg Stefano. His colleagues and his staff, they are all surpassed by no one anywhere. They're the best. I guess that is all a sign that I'm, well, just plain old. Thank you, and may the next 60 be just as successful. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Dee Dee Miller. Dee Dee is honorary chair of this event and currently chair of the Geauga Medical Center Board. Dee Dee?
Thank you. I want to share a story with you tonight about my friend Frank. You see, this past July one evening, Frank was sitting in his home in Hiram, Ohio, when he began to experience chest pain. His wife called 911, and the Hiram Rescue Squad quickly arrived. They connected Frank to an EKG machine, and right there, it showed he was having a heart attack. They put him in the squad and raced toward Geauga Medical Center. On the way, Frank's heart went into a lethal beat, the kind you get shocked for. And they shocked him, and his heart returned to normal. When he rolled through the doors of our emergency department, there was a whole team gathered to try to stabilize him. One member of the team was Dr. Greg Stefano. As they worked on Frank, it went from bad to worse. His heart kept going back into that lethal arrhythmia. We had to keep shocking him. We'd started CPR. We inserted IV lines, pushed drugs, drew out blood to send to the lab. Finally, Dr. Stefano made the decision that Frank had to move to the cardiac cath lab. There, amid an awful lot of chaos, Dr. Stefano inserted a small catheter and threaded it all the way up until it was in his coronary arteries, those teeny tiny arteries that sit on the outside of the heart. There was a blockage. So Dr. Stefano inserted a stent, a small metal coil right where the blockage was, and where there was no blood flow, like that, blood flowed. Frank was not out of the woods. You see, we had shocked that heart, Frank's heart, over 30 times from the time he was in that squad coming to us and in our emergency department. It's an unprecedented amount of shocks. He'd been getting CPR for better part of an hour. Frank's heart was weak. So Dr. Stefano inserted another device to help it recuperate, and we moved him to our ICU. A couple days later, they moved him to a regular room. And after just 4 days, Frank and his wife walked back out through our doors of our hospital and returned to their home in Hiram, Ohio. I share that story with you because it really shows what we're capable of today, the type of care we deliver at our hospital day in and day out. And I think it's for 3 reasons. Number 1, our team. Number 2, their commitment to quality. And number 3, our partners. We have over 425 board-certified, highly trained physicians on our medical staff taking care of our patients. 500 nurses and advanced practice nurses take care of our patients 24 hours a day, and sometimes their families too, and also inside our hospital and out in the community. We have a whole group of specially trained healthcare administrators. I don't know about you, but I find navigating my own healthcare journey and medical insurance to be pretty confounding. Try doing it for a hospital. This group keeps us on track, they keep us lean, and they make sure that we can provide the type of care we need amid the myriad of rules and regulations that is today's healthcare environment. But that's not all. After that, there's a host of paraprofessionals, and I have to read because I don't want to leave anyone out. Ready? Pharmacists, physicists, respiratory therapists, OT, PT therapists, social workers, music therapists, palliative care specialists, dietitians, imaging specialists, and clinical laboratory specialists. All those people work on that team. And then there's that group that we don't mention very often, but they're really a critical group of men and women. They keep our hospital running in good working order. They make sure our equipment is in top order. They clean our hospital, they transport our patient supplies, they feed us, and they keep us safe. That's the team right now that we have at Geauga giving unparalleled quality care. And Frank and his wife wouldn't have walked out those doors without each and every one of them. But we all know, right? You can have a big team of talented people and you don't accomplish much. You have to have a vision, right? A reason for doing the hard work, a goal. And at University Hospital's Geauga Medical Center, that goal is quality. We commit to it with every patient, every test, every procedure, every interaction. And this isn't talk. You go to any hospital meeting and quality will be on the agenda. And it's because of that commitment that we're able to provide care that saves people's lives like Frank. So, great team, really committed to quality, but you gotta have some partners, right? No one does it alone. I wanna reach out to our auxiliary group over there. They are our longest continuous partner. They've been with us since before day one. In the early days, they sewed gowns for patients in the hospital. They also provided childcare for the initial staff. Today, they run our gift shop, and they hold more events than I could ever even name. But here's what Jim told you. They've also been our best financial supporter over the years. When a call goes out, it's our auxiliary group that's first in line to answer it. I am very grateful. Another wonderful partner, as you've already heard, is University Hospital System. They've not only generously invested in our hospital, but they've made possible many of the service lines, like the Harrington Heart and Vascular Cardiac Cath Lab, where Frank was treated, but a state-of-the-art infusion center. I don't know if you, but if your family's been touched by cancer, getting your care close to home in familiar surrounding, it's so important. And we offer that now at Geauga County's only hospital. The last partner, the partners that help us thrive, it's all of you. We can't make Geauga County, Geauga Medical Center run without incredible philanthropic support. Would you like an example of how that goes here? Tonight, this event, we had hoped to have a goal of $60,000 raised in sponsorship. We didn't just meet that goal. We didn't actually double the goal either. Tonight, we raised $125,000. So I'm pleased to share with you that those donations made in honor of our 60th Diamond Jubilee celebration complete our current goals, fundraising goals for current capital projects. And I am so happy. And I just say thank you very much to each and every one of you. So, what's next? Where do we go in the next 60 years? I can think of no one better to tell us that than our own system president and CEO, Mr. Tom Zenti. Tom?
Well, those are two really difficult acts to follow, aren't they? It's a real honor to be here with all of you tonight, and I appreciate your giving me a few minutes to be at the podium. It's really hard to be the next speaker when the time that you've been allotted has already passed. So I'm going to be mindful of that. I have a number of remarks prepared here, but I'm going to just do what the others have done, and this is, quite frankly, more of a family get-together than it is a business meeting. I'm going to talk a little bit about Jim Patterson first. So I first moved here, and I'm going to tell a personal story too, because that resonates quite well, I think, with the group here tonight. And I moved here from Los Angeles. I used to work at a place called Cedars-Sinai. Actually, I worked with Steve Jones. We worked together there for like 25 years or so, years ago. And so I moved here, and everyone said, well, you've got to meet Jim Patterson. So I said, fine, and had the opportunity to meet Jim, and he's a very affable and a thoughtful and a smart, creative guy, just a delightful individual. And, you know, you talk about a lot of things, and I said, so, Jim, you know, what do you do? And he said, well, I own a very small family fruit farm. So I said, all right. Went home that night and looked up Jim Patterson on the internet, and there's about 7 or 8 screen flips that you have to really have to understand Jim. But I tell you that story because what I find at Geauga is tremendous success, intellectually gifted individuals who care deeply about the community, and a sense of humility like I've never seen before. And I think that's really the trademark of what Geauga Medical Center really represents. My second story is I moved here, and of course the first thing you want to do, I'm into my 17th year here, so I've been here for quite some time. And you always, of course, when you take a new job, you want to see the assets of the corporation. So I thought, well, let me go and visit all the various hospitals. Now, just a little background, I grew up in rural northeastern Pennsylvania, and for many years I was a farmer as a young boy. I would bale hay and milk cows and all the things that farmers do. And then I moved on, and I went on to school and graduate school and went on to take my first jobs, and ended up in Los Angeles at Cedars-Sinai, and then took the job back here. And Beverly Hills in West Los Angeles can be a little bit flashy and a little bit showy, and never got caught up in all that persona. But I came here, and my first place that I visited was Geauga. And so I was walking around with Rich Frenchie, and of course I like to meet the staff, and we walked all throughout the entire hospital, and I met this woman, and I said, how are you? And she said, great. She said, but I can't stand up. And she said, and my shoulders are killing me. And it was a Monday. And I thought, well, in classic Los Angeles fashion, she had a hard time getting out of her Lamborghini. The Ferrari broke down. She worked out too hard at the gym. She played too much tennis. And I said, what's wrong? She said, well, on Saturday and Sunday, she said, I shoveled 2 tons of mulch. And I said to myself, I think I'm back home again. So all of you who spoke before me, Dee Dee, great remarks, and Jim, great remarks, and Lisa, thank you for giving me a few minutes to be at the podium. But I also want to thank some people who hadn't been mentioned directly. And I'd like to thank the members of the board of directors, both current and past, because without great board leadership and community representation, we wouldn't be where we are today at Geauga Medical Center. So for those of you who are either current or past board members, if you don't mind, would you please stand up so that we can recognize you appropriately? And secondly, both Jim and Dee Dee mentioned a number of physicians in the audience, and we wouldn't be where we are today without the expertise and professionalism and the personalities of our physician community. So for all of you who are physicians, if you would please stand up so we can recognize you as well. And thirdly, I don't know the number, and I don't mean for people to take offense to what I'm about to say, because I mean it sincerely. The most admired people in healthcare today are the nurses, right? And for the past 30 years, since these types of polls have been taken, in all but 1 year, nurses are the most admired profession. And the only year that the nurses didn't win was September 11th, 2001, and the most admired people were the first responders, right? So, can I ask the nurses who are here tonight to please stand up so we can recognize you as well? So I want to thank all of you for your service. We recognize the volunteers and the auxiliaries, so thank you for all the great work that you do. And there's really not enough time to talk about where healthcare is going, but what I can tell you is that with the kind of foundation that's been established here at Geauga, obviously the 60th anniversary is known as a diamond anniversary, but I'd like to also say that you're the diamond in University Hospitals family. So thank you for all the great things that you do. So what's happening in healthcare? Just a quick turn for you. Inpatient activity is going down, outpatient activity is going up, other ambulatory services are growing and developing. In fact, in our health system now, it's hard to believe, as I said, I'm into my 17th year, but we have totally flipped the numbers. About 2/3 of our revenues now come from outpatient and other ambulatory, and about 1/3 of our revenues come from inpatient. That number is going to be continuing on in the future. So as we think about where healthcare is going, it's got to be around ambulatory, other outpatient. I was talking with Greg earlier on the way in, and we were talking about a number of things, and we talked about this move more to outpatient care. I'm not sure how many orthopedic surgeons are here in the audience, but the estimates are that today, about 3% of joint replacements, either knee or hip, that are performed, about 3% are done on an outpatient basis, meaning you come in the morning and you go home at night. The estimates are that in the next 5 years, that number will be 60 to 75% of the cases will be done on an outpatient basis. For the cardiologists in the room, TAVR procedures, as you know, were not even thought of 10, 15 years ago. We're seeing patients coming into the hospital for very brief periods of time now for total aortic valve replacements, and we can expect to see more and more of that as time goes on. As we see improvements in anesthesia, we see improvements in cardiology, we see improvements in cancer care, we're going to expect to see that more and more will be done on an ambulatory or other outpatient basis. But if we examine what we've done thus far at Geauga, Judah, it's interesting, you may or may not remember, but I met you when I think you were finishing your fellowship and you were interviewing here. How many years ago was that? A few years ago, yeah. I think it might be 13, but I don't want to give anything away. The reason I say that is because when we had Geauga as part of our organization back several years ago, I remember when I first came out, Steve, you may remember this, Rich Frenchy was here, and we walked around and said, where are the specialists' offices? And he said, well, we don't really have that many. And so we opened up a small group of offices in the corridor that became timeshares. Well, who would have thought that we interviewed Dr. Friedman to come and join us as, by many measures, one of our first oncologists to join the staff. And now we have a fully blown Seidman Cancer Center on the campus of Geauga Medical Center. So thank you for all that you have done as well. And then lastly, what I'll say is that we've invested now over $100 million in Geauga Medical Center, and we will continue to do so in the future. It's a phenomenal organization. We've had some encroachment by some of our competitors, and it doesn't matter because we continue to grow, we continue to develop. I think this year, I talked to Dr. DiCarlo, I think our revenues, or rather admissions, are up about 6% this year, and that's no small margin, and that's because of all the great work that all of our caregivers provide every day and that our community believes so much in us. So lastly, I'll just say thank you for all the great things that you've done. Thank you for your commitment to the communities that we serve. Thank you to the patients who entrust us with their care. And I mean this sincerely. When you come to Geauga, it's one of the friendliest, warmest places that you can possibly visit. People here are just amazing. And I tell you that the story about the person shoveling the mulch because it just struck me because I hadn't seen that genuine nature in such a long period of time. And by coming back and having people just be so forthright and so honest about the things that really mattered to them, that's exactly what this medical center represents, while at the same time providing world-class clinical care by a group of thoughtful, caring professionals. So that's what we will continue to do in the future. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate, Lisa, you giving me some time on the podium.
Okay, so I need help. Okay, this is a big step. Okay, thank you, Tom. That was more than enlightening. I am confident with your dynamic leadership of the UH health system, our future looks very bright. This concludes our formal program, I am so sorry to say. But I do hope you will continue to visit with old friends while making some new friends during our dessert reception. Thank you again for all your support of UH Geauga Medical Center's celebration of 60 years. You will like to know the bar will remain open and our dessert will be served on the patio. At the end of the evening, we would like the table hosts to take the centerpieces. However, you must lift the flowers from the vase. The vase must stay on the tables. Finally, we have what you've all been waiting for, the Nick, what's his name? Chubb. Browns football raffle. Okay, I guess I need my glasses for this. I don't have one. Okay. The lucky winner is number 6, 4, 8, 8, 4, 8, 9. Oh, here we have a winner. And how fortuitous that it should be at our presenting sponsor table. Please enjoy dessert and the bar will remain open. Thank you all for coming. It's been a labor of love to have all of you here tonight, to see all of your faces. And remember, whenever we host another Geauga Medical Center event, the food will be great, the bar will be open, and the camaraderie will be at its best. Thank you all.